And you're very welcome back. Now, when someone close to you passes away, it can literally turn your life upside down. However, everyone's experience with death is completely different. You might feel overwhelmed with emotions from anger to denial and guilt to absolute despair. Well, my next two guests, along with two other authors, came together to write a book about their own experiences with death in the hopes it would help their readers along their own journeys. The book is called Bringing Death to Life. It's out now, and here to tell us about it, please welcome Patricia Scanlan and Dr. Helen Hensley. Well, ladies, you're both very welcome.
Thanks.
And Patricia, this is a different departure for you. This is a very personal book rather than fiction.
It certainly is. It was very true to life. And it came about after my dad died. And so we were in the hospital one day and I was talking to a member of the team and I said, my dad is dying. And they said, oh, no, he's very ill. And I said, no, I know my dad is dying. I know the signs. You know, I had seen him failing all the year behind us and I had seen him withdrawing. And I knew Aidan, my co-author, had said, he used to have a great appetite, and Aidan said, don't force him to eat because his appetite had gone. And that was a real kind of shock to me, and I was always trying to give him a little bit extra. Take a bit of this, take a bit of that. No, he didn't want it. And Aidan said to me, that's the body closing down. The body knows what it has to do. So I stopped pressurising him. And so I just said to this person, you know, he's seen his parents at his bedside when he's getting his legs dressed. And my mother saw her mother before she died, and that's one of the signs. But wouldn't have it, wouldn't even mention the word death, because Daddy had said, am I dying, to this person? And they said to me, I think he's afraid, but he wanted to talk. And
that would have removed the fear.
It would. It was because when my aunt died many years ago, Auntie Peg, I went down to Wexford to see her in the hospital, and she said to me, I think I'm dying. What do you think? And I was too young and unaware and unenlightened to say, well, what do you think and how do you feel about it? And I immediately said, oh no, Auntie Peg, no, you'll be fine, thinking I was comforting her. Whereas had I known what I know now, I would have straight away said, well, how do you feel about it? And are you worried? Are you afraid? And talk to her about it. And this is the thing. What I found was the more intimate with death I became, with my mother's and my father's death, the less fearful I found it. And I kind of feel, and because, you know, I had advice about how to look after my dad, we all looked after him very well. He was at home until his 90th birthday. But because I knew how to look after him, and we all knew how to look after him in the months coming up to his death, we knew what to do for him. And I kind of felt this is something that should be shared, so that people aren't frightened of death. John O'Donoghue had a great quote. When we are born, in the excitement of our birth, there's a companion who is born with us, but we never take any notice of him. And he walks our life alongside us, and that, of course, is death. So, I mean, you're born, you're going to die, and I think if you can be prepared, the grief is horrendous. When my mother died, I felt her energy, her being lift out of her body. I knew that frail body was not my mother. I knew what had come out of my mother, her spirit, or whatever you like to call it. And there was so much more to her than I had experienced of her. She was strong and powerful. I knew it wasn't the end of her. But even though I knew that, the grief, your mother has died, you're never going to get a hug again. So
closing of that chapter.
Yes.
But even having this knowledge and talking about topics like this, it doesn't just help people facing death, but it helps the people left behind.
And we have covered death through suicide, the death of children, the mass exodus of souls when something like 9/11 happens. We've covered practicalities like making a will, letting the person who's going talk about it and give what they want to give and be prepared to go. And
yeah, because it is really uncharted territory, and there is a spiritual side to it. And if I could bring you in, Helen, because I assume this is why you brought Helen involved. Tell us about your experience. You had a near-death experience. This started your whole journey with finding out more about death.
I did. In 1991, I was living in Charleston, South Carolina, and I was on my way to a Christmas party, and was at a set of traffic lights, and car failed to stop at a red light and ran through at 75 miles an hour and T-boned me. So basically folded my car in half. I broke my neck and all sorts of other interesting bits. But it was in that moment that my entire paradigm shifted, because as the daughter of a minister, I'd grown up in the Bible Belt of the South in America, and what I had been taught to believe would happen at the time of death, none of it happened. It was so much bigger, so much broader, so much more expansive, so much more beautiful.
So what kind of things? Because we're told there could be a white light or... So what do you remember about
Well,
that?
in my own experience, I spent the first part of it, I was actually out of my body before the car impacted mine. And I remember distinctly having the choice. As this car was barreling towards me, it was like everything started to slow down. And I went, oh, I've done this before. And it was very comfortable, which also was a very new experience for what I'd been taught to believe. And I had a choice to remain in my body or to exit and experience watching the impact take place. So obviously I took option B. And next thing, I'm watching the accident take place. And I was very aware of who I was, who I had just been. But what was missing was I wasn't pining for the body. I was aware that that had taken me through 21 years of life at that stage, but I had no interest in whether I carried on or went back into the body at that stage. I was just observing. And there was a beautiful sound, a music of the spheres, I call it. There was a frequency, a tone playing in the background. And as this tone began to speed up and the sounds became more clear and more beautiful, I was in this space, and then suddenly I was in this space. And that was my tunnel. And so when I landed into this space, again, I'm waiting. You know, I grew up a Southern Baptist. I was waiting for Jesus to be there at the pearly gates and, you know, the angels and the harps, and none of that happened. I land in this space. The atmosphere is palpable. The feeling, it was, you know, I no longer had a physical body. The best way I can describe looking back at the body left trapped in the car with the broken neck was if you'd been out gardening and you were hot and sweaty and you came in and you peeled off the dirty clothes and left them next to the washing machine and went and had a fabulous shower. The last thing you're thinking about is the dirty clothes next to the washing machine.
Wow.
And I'm in this space, and the feelings, the sounds, the smells, everything was just coursing through my being, and I knew I was part of it. So there was no sense of, oh no, what I've left behind, I've got to get back to this. I just was in that moment, and this is where you hear people talk about the love. My experience was so much more extensive after that I've been able to write several books about what happened. But a lot of people just come back with that feeling of love, and this is why, because you land in that space and you go, oh yeah.
And you're not afraid of death when it comes now?
Absolutely. No, I'm not homesick. I've got so much to do yet while I'm here, and I chose to come back here. As you can see, the projects that we're working on now, the beautiful people that are in my life.
How did you two cross paths?
Aidan Story.
Aidan Story.
Who is our co-author.
Wrote Angels of Divine Light. And he did Reiki healing on me. And he kept saying, the minute we met each other, we felt as if we'd known each other all our lives. And he said, oh, you'll have to meet Mary Helen, you'll have to meet Mary Helen, because they would work in the same kind of line of business, and they knew each other. And so when I met her, I felt as if I'd known her all my life.
You have that feeling about you. You are very warm, I have to say. I mean, I've only said a very quick hello to you over there. You do have that about you, for sure.
Well, I think it's that whole having been dead and coming back, and I'm just so excited to be here.
You're not wasting a second.
I'm not wasting a millisecond.
Mighty crack.
So much to do.
But we were so happy to do this book because Mary Helen and Pamela Young and Aidan Story, who are all published authors, but they have so much knowledge. I kind of narrated it and brought it together. And you know, when you think outside the box, there's so much more, and the feedback we're getting is absolutely wonderful. I mean, it's touching people already. It's making them feel a bit of ease, a bit of comfort. Grief is a hard path, a very hard path, but and facing when you know somebody is facing death, being with them. But when you get the advice that we give in the book, and this was advice we were all given.
Yeah.
So it's just you know, in the old days in villages and towns, they always had a lady who helped with births and helped with deaths. And
they did have someone for death, did they?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
I know
right.
in Rossler Harbour was called Kate Wickham. And
so they come at the time of the wake or the time of dying.
So they knew what it was like when it was passing. And I asked my mother, was she afraid? And she said, no. And she said, are you? And I was absolutely petrified because I had never seen anybody dying, and it was my mother who was dying. But I heard myself say, no, I'm here to help you on your journey. And that's what it is. It is a journey. And
I think it's that brings such a neat perspective to this, because each of us have such a different voice. While we're all, it's like we've all taken 4 different roads to the exact same destination, and that's what I think works about the book.
Yes.
Tricia was talking about thinking outside of the box. I think this book stands to collapse the box for many people.
Yeah.
Because each of us, with Aidan with his vast knowledge and personal, tangible experience with the angelic realm, Pam, who just is an enigma in and of herself. She's just, you sit in her presence and you just marvel at her. She's just so deeply connected. And then, you know, me, I come bouncing in. Hey, I'm back. You know, and I'm here, and I just want to spend my life telling everybody, stop being afraid. And don't be afraid to talk about it, because...
Well, it's a fantastic message, and it does sound with each of the 4 stories that somebody will be able to identify somewhere, and we're all facing that way anyway, so it's worth talking about.
Out of it that will... They don't have to believe everything we write, but if they get one thing that will comfort them, we've done our job.
You'd be happy with that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it sounds absolutely fascinating read. I wish you all the very best success with it. You will touch people's hearts and definitely change people's opinions, I am sure. It was a pleasure to meet both of you.
Thank you.
The book is out now, and it is called Bringing Death